Okie dokie. Let's get this up and running here. Fair warning, about 3 minutes ago, somebody decided that it was time to turn on some power tools outside. I apologize if you can hear that over my voice here. And my neighbors have recently acquired a bird, which might occasionally make itself known on stream here. So if any of that sound balance is off, let me know. I've tried to turn the music up a little bit in my own voice, and we will see how that ends up working out, or not. Let me make sure I can actually hear myself. Yep, that sounds okay to me. So if anything is off, just let me know. Otherwise, we're gonna go for it. We got a couple things planned for this week, a little different than usual, or the last couple weeks at least different from that. So let me just pull up real quick my stream manager, and we will get right into it. There we go. Okay, so hello. My name is Cheese Doodle. For those who don't know, welcome to Future Group Friday. Future Group Friday is a weekly stream I've been running for the past few months, trying to focus on development updates for the game of TagPro. If you don't know what TagPro is, it's a free-to-play capture the flag game. You can find it online, right in your browser. Free games, or short games, about 6 minutes. It is all free to play. Tagpro.gg. If you don't know me, as I said, my name is Cheese Doodle. I am in charge of the Future Group and development team, steering committee, all that stuff. And so our focus for today is to talk through development updates from the last week, all the things that have been going into the ongoing branch for the next release. We're going to talk through the meeting notes because we had a big meeting last Sunday, talk about what went on during that. Then we're going to switch over to the canny board that you can see in front of me right now, talk through any requests that we've received in the last week, and then we're going to finish up building a specification for an upcoming feature that has not been started yet. And that feature is going to be default chat macros, which has been a thing requested for a while now. So that's our rough agenda. We're going to start off, like I said, with some development updates, starting a week from today, which puts us at January 2nd, if I'm not mistaken. So January 2nd, where are we? Good. Okay. First thing that went in was a small fix just for new developers as they were getting their local database set up. We realized there were some issues getting the very first season started, so we got that patched up so our new devs who are being onboarded can get started. We do have another developer who is just accepted to the team. We'll hopefully get them up and running in the next couple of days. Then we had a fix to, or an up. Oh, sorry, it looked like something just crashed, but it didn't. We're good. Okay. We had an upgrade to something backend process that we use for display on the, like half the pages on the site. We upgraded the thing that hosts them basically so that it's more modern, runs a little faster, hopefully. If you see any updates or developer console messages where it says view is running in developer mode, that is kind of a bug because of the old product that we're using. So the upgraded version will not show that developer message anymore in the console. Then we've got a lot of progress on something I'm very excited for personally, which is the new player indicator, which is the thing that will mark in games if a player, or a sumball in most cases, is a smurf or is a new player. There's a lot more behind the scenes on how that works, but it's going to be a mixture of automated processes and manual processes so that sumballs who are in their first, I think it's 50 games and don't have an account and are not tied to any existing player will be marked as new, so the players know that they're just trying the game out for the first time. And then accounts that are created, if they have fewer than 10 degrees, have no alternate accounts, and no extensive IP play history from before they created the account, they would also be marked as new. So in addition to that, manual review, so if a moderator or a monitor sees that a player is not new but is marked as new, they can update that so the player is no longer marked as new. And so hopefully that will allow us to make it much more obvious to players when they are or are not playing with a brand new player so that they're not taking their frustrations out on somebody in their first couple of games of TagPro. So that should be a pretty big one. We've been trialing a backend version of that for the past few months. If you look at replays, you might see some numbers next to names. That is what that is. It's that trial that we've been using. Those numbers will go away after this branch is pushed to production. So that went in. We've got finalizing progress on the profile page. I've mentioned last week that we are separating the profile page into 3 different tabs. So instead of having your name, your stats, your flares, and your settings all on the same page, we're separating those out so that your name and your stats are on one page, your flares are on their own page, and your settings are on their own page as well. And they're all the same page, but they're different tabs within that page. And so what that should allow us to do is focus on each of those as their own thing instead of trying to make them all fit together, because they're different forms of information. They're different kinds of data that should be handled differently. And that gives us a good stepping stone for adding the in-game shop to the profile page-ish kind of area. Then we've got finalizing the skill chart on the profile. I think I've mentioned this a couple times, where if you go to your profile after this is pushed, you will see the chart that says your ranked progress throughout the season, going up and down, what rank that you had, what tier you were in, and all of that. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can see individual games for the current season, you can go back and see old seasons. I'm pretty excited with that one, and hopefully that'll be up pretty soon in the next release. We had a small fix to tier sizes. If you look at the leaderboard right now, you might notice that the lowest tiers are not filling up with players, basically. If you look at where did it go? If you look at the tier sizes here, you can see that you have small tiers at the top, to be expected, but at the bottom you only have 14 players in the bottom tier, and then neutral flag, I think it's even more pronounced. You've got 93 players in tier 3 and then 9 players in tier 4, and that was a fix that we had put in for an 8-tier system that worked well for 8 tiers. Obviously is not working well for 9 tiers, so just a fix that's going to balance this out a little bit better so that you don't have such a huge disparity between tier 3 and tier 4, or between whatever the second to last tier is and the last tier. So that should go in soon as well. Then we've got a conversation about that going back and forth. Tier sizes. We had a vote to decide if the in-game thing that we're adding, where you can buy flares and whatever with coins, is called a shop or called a store. We did decide on calling it a shop and not a store. There was a brief rebellion where they tried to call it a market as well. I shot that down, so we're sticking with shop. It's going to be the in-game shop officially. Then we had a fix that's ongoing right now. This is a conversation that's still going. Trying to figure out a small bug that ends up having pretty large implications for players who are finishing a game that they're in. And the way that you might see this is if you are in a game and you finish that game and you see another game gets created right after that, but you thought you would be in that game, but you're not. Sometimes that is happening because of a very, very small race condition at the very end of a game where, I don't know how much detail I want to go into here. The joiner thinks that you left the game to go back to the home page, even though you left the game to go back to the joiner. And it's happening like milliseconds of timing, so not everyone has it happen to them. But what you might see on the other side of it is the players who are waiting for your game to finish. So you're in your game, you're playing, and there's another player who's saying, okay, I'm in the same tier as this person, so I'm waiting for their game to finish before I go into my own ranked game. So normally what should happen is this game ends, everyone comes back to the joiner, it looks at all those players and makes the best possible game for all of them. But what's happening is this player waits for the player in game, this player's game ends, the joiner thinks that they left and sends this player into a game, and now this player comes back to the joiner. So now instead of the player you were waiting for being in the same game with you, you get into a game and they don't get into a game. And it's looking like people are getting skipped, and it's really just coming down to that tiny little race condition. So we have 2 fixes that are going to fix that. We haven't decided which one we're going to use yet, but that was the conversation for the last day and a half or so. That's it for strict development stuff. And like I mentioned, we had a pretty big meeting last Sunday, so I'm just going to briefly skip through what we talked about. First thing we talked about was the in-game shop and the flares that we're going to be putting in there. We had a small modification that I'm not going to go into too much detail here with what we are offering in the initial shop. I think I had promised about 100 flares initially, and we do have those flares, but we're not going to offer all 100 of them right from the start. It's going to be closer to 50 flares, which is hopefully still enough to keep people satisfied at the beginning. Those other 50 flares will be finding their way in over the next couple of months. We just wanted to introduce them a little bit differently, and I'll have more details about that when it actually goes live. We have a lot of to-dos related to that, mostly around the naming of flares, making sure we have the descriptions of flares, because up until now, a lot of the flares that you see on the site, their description is like the event that they were earned in, or what, like how you get them, like the gold achieved flare, at least tier 4. But if you got it from the shop, you don't want 50 flares where their description is all just earned in the shop. That's kind of boring, right? So we're trying to figure out like more like flavor text kind of things if you play card games, stuff like that, to make it a little more exciting when you have a flare and look at what it is in the shop. See what Name is complaining about. Oh yes, yeah. So then we were just talking about how to award flares. We have to figure out the balancing system for how to, like, how many coins do you get for doing certain things? How many coins does it take to actually use those coins to earn something? It's going to be tough to balance that probably, mostly because it's starting from nothing. There's no basis to use for this. And then after that, you're going to be adding in more earnable features to the shop. Are those things that people want more? Are there things that people don't care as much about? Is that going to change the price? It's going to be a bit of an active process, we'll call it, once we go live. I think it's going to be a lot of communication with the community. If they say that's impossible to earn or that's not worth the amount that you're saying it's worth, it's going to be a lot of back and forth on that, probably. I don't think there's anything we can really do to fix that before it happens, but that's mostly an open invitation. If you have thoughts about this when it goes live, please share them with us so that we can adjust accordingly. Other things we were talking about were the timeline for the Steam release. LLB, yeah, I figured I wore the same sweatshirt the last like 3 weeks. I figured I should probably change it up a little bit. Yeah, so we're talking about Steam release timeline, which is slightly dependent on how long it takes for us to pull things together, obviously. I am very much planning for it to happen this year. I'm hoping it'll happen in the first half of this year, but I can't promise that before I've had more progress done. But that is my personal goal for that. The shop will be in the next probably 2-ish months, if I had to guess, at most, maybe a little bit sooner, depending on how quickly we can pull together some of those thoughts I was mentioning with the pricing and the coins and all that. I'll have more information on that as we go, obviously. We have some ongoing stuff in terms of research, trying to look up requirements for Steam, kind of what does Steam need us to adjust on our site before they allow us to go live on Steam. If you have experience in putting a game up on Steam and you're watching this, please reach out to me, because this is something we are learning a lot about but don't really have any experience actually doing yet. So things that are obvious examples would be like our moderation system. Does that need to be adjusted at all for Steam? Our donation system. Does Steam need to get a cut of donations through the site? Can we redirect users to the browser so they can donate there? Is that allowed? So just little things like that to make sure that we're not breaking any Steam terms of service before we get this game up on their platform. So again, if you have any experience there, please let me know. We also talked about potentially releasing the game in a beta before we actually do a full release, which allows us to have the game up, running, bug test, make sure it's working and looking the way that we want it to, but it doesn't actually advertise the game on Steam until we decide, okay, the game is done, go live now, and then it actually gets promoted to the Steam community. And that gives us a little bit more freedom to have the game on the platform and then start to fix other things that we notice are important for getting new users in and stuff like that. And so we can give out early access TagPro, a decade and a half after we've started this game. But it'll allow us to like send Steam keys out to the community, say, come try this out, make sure it's working properly, and then we can hopefully get a better product for when we actually go live and see what that looks like to people who don't know TagPro. We've got a little bit of a conversation about sound effects. I know there's a conversation going on in the competitive Discord about honking right now. We'll follow up on that later. Basically, we're still pulling together a lot of different things, trying to make sure that we have a plan before we just start adding stuff. Because with things like a sound redesign, you can't just change the sound of a pop, right? You need to change all of it, or the ability to change all of it instead of just little things at a time. You can't ease somebody out of a texture or a sound pack they've used for a decade into a slightly different one. That's just going to bother them. So give people agency over what they're using, kind of thing. Moving on. We have a little bit of progress on TagPro Mobile. We have another developer who joined in to help out Harry. Hopefully that will fix up some of the bugs that we have with the Android edition, and then maybe look at some progress to getting on the App Store. I don't have anything big to update there, but that is a consideration that we're looking at as well. Some conversation about the subreddit came up, trying to figure out if we want to add more moderators to the subreddit, try to get it a little more alive because it's not super active right now. And then maybe changing the rules that we have right now with the auto mod removing all images by default. And if you have strong feelings about that, let me know. We can talk about it. We didn't get to a strong conclusion there. I just want to put that out there. We were talking about what to focus on after Steam is live. which we talked about a little bit on stream last week. And the other discussion that came up was how does Steam friends interact with TagPro friends? And what we landed on with that one is that we want to keep TagPro friends as its own thing. We don't want to rely on what Steam offers. We want to use what Steam offers, but we don't want that to be the basis for a feature that we build on the site, because there are still going to be players using the browser, because we're going to keep the browser game intact and running. So we don't want to sacrifice any browser functionality and just offload it to Steam, because that would hinder the performance for players who are not using Steam. So we think that we can get them to talk to one another pretty easily, in truth. It looks like Steam has a pretty established system for allowing you to interact with their features. So we're just looking into other things that they offer now and seeing if there's anything else that we can tap into similar to their friends feature. For those who weren't here last week, things you can do with the friends feature is like send a group link to somebody through Steam. So instead of having to copy and paste a URL, just say, hey, join my group, and they would get that invite and they can join. That's an obvious example. Missing a couple chat messages here, sorry. We've got everything he's talking about is secondary to the number one priority of giving me. Yeah, I don't know what happened with Moosin. So we had that whole thing. We spent like 2 weeks talking about this a month ago with the Season 0 flare, how we had a mistake in the initial awarding of the Season 0 flare. Not everybody got it. And then we spent a good week on fixing that and gave it to everybody who was missing it. And now Moosin shows up a month later saying, hey, I still don't have my Season 0 flare, even though I played games. And he's the only example that we've found of this. So I don't know what happened there. So we will fix that, Moosin. I'm not really sure. I really don't know how that would have happened without other people having it happen to them. But it did. I saw your account. It's real. So we will fix that. We decided on a fix for the early the quitter problem with ranked games. If you have players who join a game at the very start, leave the game due to AFK, and then come back before the game actually voids. We've talked about this on stream as well, but basically it's bad for the game because one team is playing 4v3 at the start. The game does not void, so the players who were down a player get nothing. They were just at a disadvantage, and then the player who left gets yelled at or told to quit. And there's like a moderation problem. There's a ranked problem. It's a bad vibe for the whole community. So we just talked about the timing of things. We're going to adjust it so that it's more likely that a player who goes AFK at the start and leaves, they're more likely to void that game than they are to come back after a cap has happened and make their team lose the game. So that'll make more sense when it's live. Just bear with us on that one, please. Similar conversation with late game quitters. Just looking at players who disconnect a couple seconds before the game ends. Should they get a void? Should they get no penalty? Should they get the win if their team wins? And we decided that more often than not, we're going to penalize people for leaving the game because we don't want players quitting early, but we are going to have a little bit of grace similar to the old casual system where you get a free disconnect every 8 hours. Not quite that same system, but a similar thing where it's trying to allow for the occasional my internet gave out kind of situation, but not award players or reward players rather for quitting games before they've ended. So another thing that will make more sense when it's live, but that came up in our meeting as well. We've got some small plans to change or update the post-game updates for ranked so that we can show win streaks that are active at the bottom of the scoreboard where it says that you gained or lost that much skill score. Also putting win streaks there, and then making it a little more obvious when somebody moves into a new tier. So if you got promoted to tier 2, a little something or other to show that you did that would be cool. We've got discussion about developer applications, like I mentioned. We have a new dev on the way, and that covers most of what I'm able to talk about here on stream. So very productive meeting. I was really happy with how it went. We managed to get all that done in about 2 hours, which was honestly the most efficient meeting we've had ever for the Steerco and the dev team. So I was very happy with how that went. And that, I think, wraps up that. So if you have any questions about things we talked about, feel free to ask. I'm obviously happy to go into more detail if something caught your interest there. But if nobody speaks up soon, I think we're going to shift over to the Canny board, and we're going to go through all of the requests that we got in the last week. So finished up last week on color-coded replay timestamps. So it looks like we only had 3 this week, which is okay. Grant says, Grant, your name is Grunt, but your name is Grant. I don't know how to Why did you pick two names that are so similar to one another but aren't the same name? It's like you wanted to mess with me. When loading a group preset, the preset code can take care of all settings with the exception of servers. This means that the group leader still needs to remember the server. Yes. Okay, so blame TPR. Multi-button chat macros. I have not played Rocket League, Bambi, sorry, but my roommate has, so maybe I'll ask him about that. Grant wants to have the server be attached to the preset so that if you put in a code that says I want these settings, it would also pull in the server. I remember there being a reason that we didn't do this, and I want to say that I can find it really quickly, so I'm going to search for about 15 seconds, and if I can't find it, we'll move on. Because I know that Bash added the presets, and I know that he mentioned something about, it might be the fact that servers are not static, like you can have a server added or a server removed if we like switch providers, but that's not a thing that happens very often. And you could even cheese it and just, instead of doing a server ID, you just do it by the name of the server and say, I want Chicago 2. Even if we change providers, if there's a Chicago 2, it would still find it and then default down to the closest thing. If not, yeah, that seems perfectly doable. I'm gonna put a ticket in, and if it ends up being something we can't do, then we can walk that back. But let us make a ticket. New issue. Allow group presets to specify server selection. I mentioned that last week too. Oh boy, my memory's going. Sorry. We're just gonna go for it. Oops. Not assigning. What was I doing? Right. In the group preset, all settings can be adjusted and saved with the exception of servers. A reason this was mentioned early on if there is instability with server selection, it is okay to fall back to a similar server or no server selection if the preferred server is not available. And then we're going to put that as an enhancement, and we're going to say relevant canny post. And that's going to be, oh, that's not what I want. We did get a deadline on the candy board. It's going to stop working on the 30th of January. We haven't really figured out what stop working means, but they keep threatening us. So I keep periodically downloading all of the data on the candy board so we can put it into the one that we're building right now. Kelvin is currently working on that. So I'm going to mark this as planned. I'm going to copy because I'm lazy. Okay, ranked TagPro audio cues. I'm new, forgive me if I don't know the setting. Getting back into the game, I don't want to play non-ranked so my queue times can get long. I switch tabs. There's no audio cue. Yeah, it looks like NICU offered the solution to this. So this feature exists. As you mentioned, check your profile settings or notify when game starts. Allow the browser tab browser to send you notifications when prompted. That's the thing some people miss sometimes, is if you have this setting enabled, but you have blocked the browser from sending you notifications, it won't, like if you muted the site or something like that, it won't be able to actually send that sound to you. So you have to enable the setting and also say, yes, it's okay for this site to notify me. So if you do not see these settings or they are not working, please let us know in another ticket. Got that. Clicking off the filter should hide the filter dialog. On the spectate page, you have the option to filter by ranked and casual games. I keep clicking outside the icon and expect the filter to hide, but you must click the exact same button again. So they're saying that when you go here and you say spectate, if you wow, look at all those games going. If you filter by ranked games and then click here, the filter does not go away. No, it does not. Okay, so they want any clicking to make that. Yeah, that's reasonable. Let's make a ticket for that. Hide direct spectate filter options when clicking off of filter buttons. On the direct spectate page, when the filter is open to select ranked or casual games. Clicking outside of that filter should close the, what do you call it, dialog box? I guess just close the filter options. Currently, the second time. And that is a low effort enhancement. And then relevant candy post. Clicking off. I like suggestions like that because they're really good for new developers too. So we can assign some of those to the newbies. Let's say planned. Boom. All right, good. Good suggestions. Thank you, XCV, and everyone who submits these. These are all good job. So now what did I say I was going to do next? We're going to move over to okay, so in the past we've been going from here to the Mira board, which is that roadmap kind of thing. It's going to get bright for a second, fair warning. We were looking at this thing here, which we've made a couple of releases. I think this is in a pretty good spot, at least for now. So I'm going to move back to our usual routine where we work on a feature that somebody wants. And so the one that's come up recently, I was talking to one of our new devs about this, and it's come up on stream before as well, maybe even a ticket. It has to do with default chat macros. And so there are a couple of use cases for this. The most obvious one would be new players. If they don't have any macros set up, give them a few options that they can click on that would send messages for them. But this also has applications for muted players. If they have their chat removed, still allowing them to say something, but not something that's going to be whatever they got muted for. And still allow them to take part in the game, give callouts, maybe announce to the other players that they are muted, so players don't wait for them to say MB or something and they get mad when they don't, which has been happening somewhat frequently of late. So we're going to spend our time today on that. And then if anyone has notes as we go, let me know, and we will see what happens. So, Bambi, you said multi-button chat. That could probably be tied into this. I'm trying to decide if I want to include that in this scope here. But let's get a document going, and then we can dig into it a little bit more. New document. Okay, so this is going to be called default chat macros. Okay, so the first thing that I want to address is the current macros, how they work, how they look, what are they? So for those who don't know, we do have macros in the game. If you go down in your profile settings to chat macros, change chat macros, you will see the one default that we have is macros are real for the F key. That might not be the default, but you can change the key of any macro by clicking on it and then clicking on a letter, but you can't use a letter that's already bound to something else. So if you go for a V, you can then change whatever that is, and you can decide if you want it to be to your team only or to everybody in the lobby. So I fixed this macro on stream, and we're going to save that. And now if I go into a game and I press the letter V, that message would pop up in the game. So I think the first thing I want to talk about is how do we actually enforce defaults? So the way that it currently shows up right now, the default is just something that shows up for everybody. It's, oh, that's the wrong thing. It shows up for everybody in terms of it's just a macro. It's there with all the other macros, and it goes away if you overwrite it. So it's a default, but it's not a persistent default, I guess I'll call it. And I think that we need to change that if we're going to add in defaults, because if you have, for example, a muted player who has created their own macros for when they actually have the ability to chat, they get muted, their defaults are gone now. I don't think that that works for what we're trying to address with this new feature. So I think what we have to do, just before anything else, is separate macros into defaults and customs and allow for there to be overlap, but allow players to switch between which set of macros that they are using. So a similar analog to that would be your keyboard controls, where you have your primary and you have your secondary keyboard controls. So my primary that I play the game with is IJKL, sue me, but I have a secondary of WASD. This is different from what I'm thinking for the macros because you can use both in the game. If I go into a game and I use WASD, it will still work even though it's my secondary. With the macros, I think you have to only use your primary or your secondary. You can't have them coexist, otherwise you'd have to look for duplicated letters. Yeah, Josh is definitely more of a sicko than I am with the ZX comma period control scheme, but I don't know, I can kind of see what you're going for. I hate it, but I can see what you're going for. So yeah. Bambi says single button macros just aren't feasible. A different button for every chat is too much. Yeah, so let me just pull up what Bambi's talking about just so everyone's on the same page with that. We've got multi... what was the name of that thing you added, Bambi? It was two button chat macros. Here it is. So the argument here is that instead of one letter per macro, you have two letters per macro. So as it says in front of us here, instead of clicking just the letter J for a macro, you would click JI, and that would be one macro. JJ would be a different macro. I think that has to be like a double tap for a keyboard, so you'd press two keys to get it to go through. We had to talk about this. I didn't get a chance to talk about this at the meeting, but it should be doable. I'm just not sure if it's going to be intuitive. But that's so where I'm going with that, though, that's a different feature request that is going to be kept separate from what we're doing for now. If we look at integrating it later, that's okay. So even if we did add in two-letter chat macros, you would still have to have your defaults and you would still have to have your actual customizables. So if you don't like my control scheme, keep it to yourself. No, I will not. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything important here. It's Friday. Single button. X is up, down. Oh, it's just Josh defending himself. Okay, yeah. So you press I. Pops on the screen every chat macro that starts with I. Interesting. Yeah, well, now you got me thinking, because one of my main questions, so let me just write down what I said first and then we can, what was I just talking about? Sorry, my brain's in too many places at once. We were saying that default chat macros need to be kept separate from custom chat macros. And then that means that the letters used for each can overlap. Only one set of macros can be active in a game at once. And this has me thinking now, would there be a use case, and feel free to say no, would there be a use case for allowing players to make their own macro bundles kind of thing? So you have your default bundle that we supply for you, then you can make your own bundle that has whatever, but you can also make another bundle. And what that use case might be is like in casual games, maybe I want this set of macros, but maybe in my competitive games that I play MLTP, I want a different set of macros that are different. I personally would not use that. As you saw, I only have the one default macro. I don't use it. Would that be something we think people would actually take advantage of, or would that be just excessive for what we're going for here? Any thoughts on that? As you guys think about that, I'm going to start writing down my next consideration. It just sounds like macro packs, which seems fine. It's the kind of thing that some people might use, but not enough to maybe justify it. So I think what I'm going to say is, if it is very easy. Oh gosh, what is that? Get out of here. Shoo. If it is very easy to add macro packs where users can make as many different sets of macros in addition to the default, that is fine, but not required. Can just be one default and one custom. Unlock the battle pass to use sequential debed? No. No. Okay, so my next question is more from a new user standpoint. So say you have a new player, they just got to the game, they're like, wow, this game is really cool. How do you show that player that they can use macros? So right now, we don't do anything to advertise the macros exist. We should probably add in, and this is true for a lot of things, should probably add in a message in the loading screen of the joiner that says like, use macros, they're really cool kind of thing down there. We don't have that for a lot of features that people don't know about, like notifications, map voting. There are a lot of stuff that needs to kind of get more attention. But ignoring that, you're in a game. How do you actually show somebody that they can use macros? Do you give them a message that says, hey, did you know that you can press whatever to use a macro? How do you show them a list of all the macros? Josh mentioned it in chat. I think I like this idea as a starting point for it. If you press shift to activate a macro menu, then your directional arrows activate one of the 4 macros. I think I like the first half of that, but not the second half of that. I think I like that is there, like, hold down a key to display a list of your current macros. So for example, shift key, like if you hold the shift key, a little thing pops up on the right side of your screen with a list of your current macros with like the letter A sends this message, the letter B sends this message, and you have the defaults there so that you can remember them in game. Because what we also have to consider, in addition to new players, is say it's a muted player who has their own macros, they're used to a certain flow. That flow has been erased because they've lost the permission to chat in the game, but they still want to use these macros. They're not going to go to the homepage, go to their profile, memorize this entire default macro key scheme, and then come back to the game to use it. They're going to say, I don't know the macros, I'm not going to bother. So if you can have something they can press or hold that shows them what the macros are, I think that makes it a lot more accessible, a lot more likely to be used as well. Even for myself personally, I might use a macro if there was some way to remind myself in game what the macros actually are. Whereas right now, maybe I'm just dumb. I don't think I have the capacity to remember all those other letters at the same time as playing the game. I'm pretty focused on pressing those 4 arrow keys, and that's about all I've got. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like it would be nice for everybody, even for your customizable ones, to have a list of what your macros actually are in the game. Stinky cheese, says Griff. Well said. Well said. Can that be remapped? Key remapping. Sorry, I don't know your actual name. Exponest. But key remapping for all keys is something we want to do as well. Again, a different spec. It is something that's good to have, but we do want the ability to remap everything on the keyboard to be whatever you want. It just hasn't gotten to the top of our priority list yet. Maybe holding shift and then you press macro button, and then when you let go of shift, it sends the message. So Josh, you're looking at a different direction than I am. Let's talk about both of these options. So what I'm offering, or what I'm proposing, is shift key displays all current macros, default or custom. Or custom with default. What is my default? Gosh, with the key to use that message and what the message is. But what Josh is proposing is shift key displays all current macros. Same thing, default or custom with, my God, I did it again. Default or custom with arrow keys or another directional something or other. Let me read this again, make sure I'm not getting it right. With directional keys or arrows selecting which item from that list you want to send. And so the benefit of this one, I think what we're going for, and Josh, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that you don't need to memorize a key for each message. You just click toward the message that you want to send. Is that accurate? Because I think about the mobile version that we have. Harry Kane had a really cool feature with macros where you can select macros, which opens up a wheel, and then in that wheel you have different types of macros, and you can select that, and that opens up a wheel, and that wheel has the actual messages you can send. With mobile, it's a lot easier because you can actually click on those individual things that you want. But for a keyboard without a touch screen, you're a little limited in terms of what you can actually press. What Grant's saying here, I like this thought, is that do you put them as numbers? So it's still like Josh was saying, where it's that wheel, but you have a number for each one of them. But in contrast to that, that's actually exactly the same thing as what I'm proposing, which is that you have a list of messages and then a different key for each of those messages. So we've kind of come back together on the on that front. But I like the idea of using numbers. I think that's more intuitive from a number keys as default keys. I think that just allows you to find it easier. I think for someone who's not used to using the keyboard a lot, maybe it's a younger player, they're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to press the B key. Where is that? Like they have to look down and find the key. But if they know it's like the number 1 key, you know where the 1 is. I think that's a little bit easier from a new player standpoint. That makes sense to me. Let me read a couple things here. Shift without remapping will be very funny as people get spammed with filter keys pop-ups. Sticky keys, yeah. Numbered list, movement. Yeah, it depends on the movement scheme that you have. Like for me, I use AJKL. If I'm supposed to use arrows for something, I'm not going to cross my hands to get to the... Yeah. Every key you add is another one you can't use for movement too with macros. Yeah, it does limit your options. Like number keys are safe. I don't think anyone out there is using 1 through 0 as their directional. I mean, maybe there's somebody out there. I don't know. We got people using their thumbs, so everything's fair game. But if they are, I don't want to hear about it. Every
key you add is not using macros.
Yeah, numpad. Numpad would definitely throw that off if you don't have your keys. Well, I guess if you have a numpad, you also have the row of numbers up top, right? Nobody has only a numpad and not, right? I'm trying to think of a keyboard I would have seen that has only a numpad and not numbers that are on the top. It probably exists. But anyway, I think those are the two options that we're working with. I think we can definitely rule out, and if I'm wrong, correct me, but probably do not allow clicking for macros. Like, you don't want to have to be like finding the macro you want to send and clicking on it. That's probably not good UI. The funny thing that Harry has, he has like a customizable text to speech thing, speech to text thing, where you can talk into your microphone on your phone and it'll send that message. If we did something for that, that'd be pretty funny. So Bambi, the Rocket League makes sense. But I thought a lot of Rocket League players don't use keyboards. Am I mistaken in thinking that a lot of them are on controllers? Because that's a completely different scheme than what we're used to. Shift up, unhold shift macro sent. So Josh, I don't disagree with that, but how is that more convenient than just pressing the number 1 macro sent? I think that the shift should be more for displaying what your macros are. It shouldn't be a thing you have to press to send the macro. I think that it's just, if I forget what my macros are, I can press the shift key and I can see what my macros actually are. Okay, you're saying use the double scheme. So the idea of the D-pad is that you can get more than 4 options out of 4 keys. I see what you're going for with that. You don't press it to send the macro, you unpress it to send the macro. I think I'm still struggling with how that is more convenient than just pressing the key. Like, if you know what your macro is going to be, we want to put the lowest barrier possible between you and sending that message. So if that barrier is 1 extra key because that's just the scheme we've decided on to increase your options, that's okay. But I think that requiring that you also are holding a shift key is going to really get in the way of some players, especially if you're thinking about two-handed players who are using both hands to play the game. It's becoming more common. Actually, Josh, you do that. So if you're holding... Okay, so you're saying you want your left ring finger on the shift key so that you can press that, and then you want your direct... Okay, I'm seeing where you're coming from now. I see where you're coming from. I'm in your head now, Josh. All right. So for other players who are using, for example, WASD, the shift key is still accessible. You get your pinky on the shift. If you're an IGKL player, you can use your pinky on the right shift. It works, but question remains, is that more convenient than just letting you pick another number? So I was using numbers as an example. Let me shift that slightly for Josh's brain, because he's using, again, ZX period comma for his 4 keys instead of numbers, because I could see why that would be annoying to get to. You're trying to get all the way up to press a number to come back down. That is disruptive to your hand placement. We would probably need to allow the defaults to also be remapped. And I'm going to say that again, because the message should not be changeable. Not able to be edited. So the messages cannot be edited, but the keys can be. So by default, just go with this for now. You have your default 10 macros. You use the numbers 1 through 0. If you want to edit those, you can edit the key that's assigned to them, but you cannot edit what the actual message is. So for Josh's example, ignoring the shift thing for now, if it's more convenient for him, he could change his macros that are default, assuming he is muted in this case, to be A, S, D, F, G, H, J, K, L instead of 1 through 0. And that way for him, it's right next to where he wants to be, and that's very accessible, and that is fine. But Fortnite dance menu. I know it. Okay, come on. I know what that is. I just don't use that. So again, we're that's a different conversation. The double. I'm not against the double key macros. We're just not talking about that right now. I'm focused on how do we offer defaults for players? That is a different conversation. We can have that conversation. It's just not the one that we're having right now. So default messages cannot be edited. The keys can be. And then I'm thinking by default, use numbers 1 through 0. If we even have that many. So we should talk, actually that's the next question, is what are the default macros? I think that 1, oh gosh. Press I, get 4 macros, 3 compliments, Fortnite dances. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So let me just humor that for a second before I say these defaults. So you're saying that you want a, then you have to change the direction that you're going in to send a message, don't you? So you're saying that you want to be holding shift, playing the game, and then say, okay, I want the message that's up and to the left. So I'm going to press up and left with my movement keys and let go of shift as I do that to send that message and then go back to what I'm doing. If I am moving down and right and I'm trying to send the message that's in the upper left corner, I need to stop doing what I'm, like, that's not good. That's bad. That's bad to require a player to change the direction they're going in to send the message they're in to the chat. There's 4 options. Okay, point stands. If I'm going down and right and I gotta send up, that's still not good. Real question is, do you add a compliment macro that will end up being used to spam when somebody messes up? Nice shot, or nice save, what is it? We have the same kind of timeout feature that Rocket League has, where if you use macros too close together, it does time out your macro feature. So I don't think we have to worry about that too much. I think it's more, from a marketing standpoint, you probably pick a funnier message that would become a meme if we're thinking about that. What would you use? Soul load? That's not a compliment. Yeah, I don't know. If you have any ideas about that, let me know. Every other method you've suggested requires you to take a finger off your movement keys. So how is that not affecting your movement also? Well, good counterpoint. But if you are using what I'm describing, you are letting go of a movement key. You are not actively holding a movement key in the opposite direction that you are trying to go in. So again, obvious example, if you're going down and the message you want is up, you need to move up in your control scheme. You need to be moving your ball up to send that message. Whereas with mine, which is not perfect, if you are moving down and the key that you are holding down with is the same finger that you would use to send that message, you would stop holding down, but you would not have to hold up, which is the exact opposite to get there. So it's a decision you can make to do that. But as Grant said, you have 2 hands. You could also use other fingers and put them in a place that is more convenient for you. I don't have a strong opinion on that one. As a one-handed player, this does not affect me, but I am trying to be accepting of other control schemes here. So what I'm trying to wrestle right now is there a middle ground between these 2 suggestions? Is there something you can do that will allow 2-handed players to continue moving in whatever direction they're moving and also send a message? So you have to use fingers that you're not using for whatever you're doing. And that's so dependent on, so you would have to allow that shift key option that you're describing, that shift key itself would have to be remapped as well, based on the control scheme, which is fine. That's not a super big issue, but just a consideration. You like the wheel type menu. I really don't like the wheel type menu, I'll be honest. I think what I'm envisioning, this is easier if I have a replay, I can just show you. So let's say we're playing a game here, and I am this player, and I forget, oh, it's me, and I forget what my macros are. I think it'd be really nice to be able to press shift, like Josh was saying, And when I hold down shift over here on the side, it pops up and says 1 is flag carrier right. Oh, got him. If I press 2, it is pup spawning or whatever it is. So I think those are the kinds of things that would happen, but that wouldn't actually let me do anything with it. When I stop pressing shift, that message goes away. So it's not always there. It's just while I am holding it so that I can remind myself what they are, and then I'm good to go. It's not requiring that I hold that extra key down just to actually send those messages. That is where I'm landing. You have to press enter and then type out the message you want and then press enter again. So lovely idea, Croissant. We are currently covering cases that would apply to muted players and sunballs who might not know how to chat or might not be able to chat anymore if their sunball chat period has expired. But I see where you're going. So I think number 1, let's talk about defaults for a second. That's an amazing idea for default macros. What? I can't tell. Oh, I'm being made fun of. Okay. I think number 1, obvious, pups spawning soon. Let's make it power-ups. That's the one that I see the most often. I think that's the one that would get the most use, probably. And then okay, then we've got like your flag carrier callouts, flag carrier. Is that used anymore? I'm thinking like olden days. That's not really common anymore. You were joking, cheese gosh. Sorry. Oh geez, Josh, not cheese gosh. Yeah, okay. Stop talking about that. I want default macros. What do people want to say? What do people say? They would say pup spawning soon. They would say 2O 2D. That comes up all the time. I don't know if I want people spamming that, but we're just doing options right now. These are not set in stone. Need regrab. Play anti. Would you say kiss coming? Flag carrier is past 2, past 3, past 4. You wouldn't want to have different ones for each number, would you? Maybe you would. Past 1. How many options do we have? Let's see if we run out of options. Let's just do it. I don't think anyone's going to call out for past 1. Nobody cares about that. Past 2, 3, 4. That seems reasonable because that's valid in both directions. If they're past 2, like you're a defender and they're out. But if you're on regrab and they're past 4, that's both directions. You're not going to say past 4 if you're defense because you're telling people who are ahead, which is fine. But I don't know. I don't love having to do 3 different macros for almost the same thing, but I think they are different enough. Or do you just say get rid of the past 2? Because past 2 and past 3 at this point. Why past 4? Bambi, past 4 is if I'm on defense and I see a past 4 call out, I'm going to push way up. I do that anyway, but you should push up to cover anything midfield so they don't get a snipe from behind. So that is a valid call out. Enemy TagPro, stay safe. I like that. I think that saying no regrab is kind of the same thing as need regrab, so I don't think we need to duplicate that one. Oh, the chat filter blocks noob? My goodness. I got LMAO taken off the filter for you, Grant, but I guess noob is also on it now. Yep, my bad. That's a good one. GG. Do you want to do GG? Good game. What do you think? Nice one. Remember to vote on the map. Nice. No bias there. Nice one. I'm offense, I'm defense. Yeah, that's better than 202D. I'm playing offense, I'm playing defense. My ball is bigger. I don't think we need to make that one a default. My bad. We already have. Yep. Good. GG. We got. Remember to vote. Yep. Good gam. My ball is bigger is very necessary. Okay. We'll consider that. All right. What else? What else here? I feel like this is a pretty good list, but we have one too many. Not that that's the end of the world, but if we're using 10 different number keys. Power-ups, I'm playing offense, I'm playing defense, I need regrab. I'm gonna make it we need regrab. Josh, that is a great argument for the personal mute feature if someone is talking too much for you. I think this is the one that I'm currently on the fence about. I think it's good to have. How do we word it though? Can remove past 4 since it's easier to notice that than past 3. And past 3 would also be a mostly valid call out for past 4. Like it's going to cover mostly the same situation. Bambi. I know it's hard to remember them. That's why I don't use them. That was my initial statement about this whole thing. And that's why I think that having the shift key where you can display all of your current macros would make that more accessible. I'm not saying that I want more macros. I'm saying that I want it to be easier to see what your current macros are. It was not difficult. Well, you're built different, Yuppa. Yeah, past 3 and past 4, I think at that point it's close enough that it's going to get the point across. So that's fine. I think with play anti, I'm going to make it play anti-regrab. Maybe we need anti-regrab. Instead of macros, let people beep. Yeah, are you a modem? Just gonna start beeping at people? I think this is a pretty good list, honestly. I don't think I want to change much about these. I guess this would be a 0, not a 10. I don't know if I'm able to do that. Can I make 0? We're just gonna cheese it. Boom. I don't think you're understanding the benefits of We're not talking about the multi-buttons. I understand the benefit. I'm on board with it. We have a spec for it, I think. No, we don't. We have a conversation about it. I'm not anti-multi-buttons. I'm just trying to focus on defaults for now. That's all. That is all. We will get to that. It's okay. Moving on. So we have default macros. The letters can overlap with your actual macros. So you would go to your profile. Past 3 be the number 3. That's a good call. We should do that. Just while I'm on this though, you have your change chat macros. So it would be similar to the keyboard controls where you have your primary and you have your default. We'll say default and custom will be the 2 options probably. And then inside of each of those, you have the same list here. For the defaults, these are locked. You cannot change them. The target will be all for all of those. Should we? Oh no, we should specify team versus all. That's a good thing to talk about. Past 3 is getting moved into the number 3 spot. Nice 1. Should that be number 1? Gonna make it number 1. Okay. This is going to be to team. This is going to be to all. I'm playing offense. It's team. 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 Are these all team? Oh gosh. Team. Team. All. And all. Does that seem fair? 2 and 4 should be next to each other. Yes, they should. Put regrab here. defense and offense. But regrab and anti-regrab should be together too. Ah! Wait, what did I just do? No, wrong one. It's a mess. What else? We've got spawning soon, nice one, my bad. Pass 3, playing defense, playing offense, anti-regrab, regrab. Probably regrab before anti-regrab, just from a personal preference standpoint. GG's messing with me so hard. Oh, is it? Ah, I didn't do that. What? Gee. Good catch. Yep, I got it. All right, so let's go back to one set of macros similar to control scheme, offer default and custom instead of primary and secondary. Only one option. Oh, that's the header. Only one can be selected at a time. Specified, thank you, in the profile settings. If it's very easy to add macro packs, that's fine. Don't worry about it though. We can just do one default, one custom otherwise. For changing it, it's the exact same as now, but do not allow, yeah, okay. Do not allow users to edit. Did I write this somewhere else? I feel like I did. Oh, right here. Do not allow users to edit the message of default macros, but do allow them to edit the key assigned to each default. And then, if a player is muted or has exceeded their sumball chat trial, which I forget how many, it's like 15 games or something, force them to the default macros. Gosh, my brain. Force them to default macros. We should also ensure that when a mute expires, if a mute expires, we want to change them back to their customs, right? Change the user back to their custom macros if they exist. So that you can use the defaults even if you're not muted. But if you have custom macros, when your mute expires, it will change you over to those custom ones. Because if you don't want them, why do you have them, I guess? Like if you prefer the defaults, people aren't getting muted enough for this to matter. So I don't think we need to worry about it past that. I think mute ends, put you back on your customs. If that's going to cause problems, we'll worry about that later. What else? Oh, the shift thing. That's right. Hold down shift key to, okay, I'm going with my thing, Josh. We're going to talk about your thing more with Bambi's control scheme because I think that falls more under the accessibility side of it. This is more just information display, how to show users that this thing exists and that they have it. Do we like the shift key or do we want a different key for, that should probably be remapped as well. I mean, we might have time on the stream. We got 20 minutes still to go into that as well. But just for the sake of this document, hold down a key to display a list of current macros. Shift by default can be remapped. And then holding shift key displays all current macros, all currently active macros. And this is a given, so we can get rid of it with the key to use that message and what the message is. This is a different thing. This is a different thing. This is a given. This is covered up above. This is the default macros. Okay. What else do we need to know in order to actually build this? I'm trying to think of cases where players don't have chat. Just making sure I'm not missing any. In private groups, do we need to do anything different for private groups? Where are you displaying the macros? Good question. Active macros on the, probably on the right side of the, like I was saying with the replay, I'm worried about smaller monitors. Where do you actually put this? Because on a screen as big as the one that's in front of us right now, it's fine. Like you've got space off to the right that it can fit on without issue. But if you have somebody with a smaller screen, like maybe they're zoomed in more, do you risk overlapping the viewport? I guess because it's only coming up when you're holding shift, so I think it's not the end of the world for it to overlap a little bit. It's most of the time you'd be like you're refreshing what they are before the game, like you press shift at the start of the game during the countdown or when you're on regrab. Because if you're looking at the game itself and you're playing the game and something time sensitive is happening in front of you, you're probably not that worried about remembering which key you need to press at that time. Can you put it on the left side? Which one do you think's more intuitive? Probably, yeah, the left, I guess, because the longer. Oh, they're not that long though. They're very short messages. Yeah, I'm fine with left. That seems more like a text-based approach anyway. Text on the right's not really where you'd look for it, I think. Yeah, let's go with left. So, macros on the left edge of the screen. Place messages outside of the viewport if possible. Not overlapping the active game. I think is that better? Put it on top of the chat box, you think? Replace the chat box maybe? Do you put it where the chat box is and say, okay, you don't have chat anymore, you just have the macros, and then when you let go of shift, the chat box comes back? Is that more user-friendly? Like you hold shift and it pops up here, and then you let go of shift and it goes back to what it was. I don't hate that, because you're used to reading text there in a certain format. That actually might be much more friendly. How many lines do we get here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think it was. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, yeah, we just only have to add one line. So that actually, that's sold. Sold. Good idea. Place all active macros with the key to use it. For display, hide the active chat box and any chat messages currently displayed. Replace it with macros and in the same font, size, and color as all. I guess would you put the ones for all in white and put the team ones in red so that it's obvious without having to put the letters, like we said team and all here, but if you just had it be red when it's your team, if you're on the red team, or blue on the blue team, that would be obvious right away if it's to your team, whereas the white ones would be to everybody. And red, blue for team, white for all chat. Yeah, I like that a lot. Good suggestion, thank you. Okay, that's a pretty good spec that we got going there then. So just to summarize, in your profile page, you have your default macros, you have your custom macros. You select which one of those packs that you want to have active. By default, obviously it's the default, but if you make your own custom and you set it to that, it will use that. If you go back to default at any time, you can use that one. The custom will continue to exist, but it will not work in your games because you have selected the default pack. If at any point your account receives a mute or you are logged out and you have run out of chat, you will lose your custom macros and you will only be able to use the default macros. And then you can change the keys assigned to the default macros, but you cannot change the messages themselves. Whereas the custom ones continue to work as macros work now, where you can change the message, you can change the key, and you can change the team and all, like where the message is going. Once you get into the game, if you are not sure what your macros are, how do we address if it's your custom macros? Do we still keep this shift feature, or do we only offer that for defaults? Because if you have custom and you have a long list, like Yalpa mentioned at one point he had 20 something macros, that's going to take up the entire left side of your screen, which would be bad. Well, I guess it's not bad. You made those macros. You want to know what they are. Yeah, I think it's fine. This can also exist for custom macros. It is okay if the user has too many and it takes up the full page vertically. They decided to have that many. Deal with it. That's good for me. It is not B Yalpa. What? Okay. If it is possible to order them so all team chat is together and the all chat is together, I mean, we could change the numbers here if we wanted to. We only have 3 that are all, so we could just switch GG and power up spawning soon. That's fine. It's actually probably better from a standpoint of where they are accessibility wise, like the zeros off to the side. Where's the one? They're probably, it's not that big a difference. But boom, fixed. Okay. There was something else someone said that I wanted to address. Maybe that was it. Oh, can you use macros while spectating a group? That was a good question. I don't see why not. Do they work right now, actually? We should probably figure that out before I answer that question. Are there any groups right now? What are my macros? Oh gosh, maybe if I could press shift to know. All right, I have V for I fixed this macro on stream. All right, we're just gonna jump in a group and see if that works while spectating. Oh wait, there's nobody in here. They're just gonna be like, who the hell is this guy? All right, pressing the letter V, I believe it was. Okay. Okay, I think that only worked because I'm a mod, so it's like it works through your chat. I got an STFU in response to that, which is that's awesome. Okay, so to answer your question, I don't think it works as a group chat. I think that it only works because with mod chat you can press enter and send normal messages. Oh man. So the question now is, should it work for group chat? That I'm thinking of right now is when Josh visited Y Lambda and Y Lambda sent like an admin message that said like, hi, this is for the documentary or whatever, and someone told him to fuck off while he was recording it. That's the first thing that popped into my head. But anyway, what was I saying? So group chat, should we allow these macros? I think with the defaults, probably not. I don't really have a strong opinion on the custom macros working for group chat. Josh, I hope I got that story right. Otherwise, awkward because you're here. But imagine if I spawned and blocked a raptor. Add another year for egg ball rank. No. I think I'm going to go with the path of least resistance on the group chat. Allowing group chat macros. No need for macros in the group. But when spectating a private group, fine to allow macros to be sent in group chat. And that's good enough for me. I'm gonna laugh about that for a little while. That's good. That's good. So, anything else we can think of for default chat macros? Pretty happy with how this came together. They didn't kick you, you can test it. If you don't mind, that'd be great, Unity. What a save. It's like the cheeriness of the macro that I had sent to them too. I fixed it on stream. They don't care. They don't know what this is. That's great. Any luck, Unity, using the macros for groups? You got kicked before you could test it? Oh no. Why do they have a public group if they're gonna kick people? That's strange. Oh well. Green Minotaur says, bro. Bro. How are you, bro? I'm Cheese Doodle. Nice to meet you. Welcome to the stream. Everyone's getting kicked? I'm Mr. Poor from that game. So, welcome. This is a stream that I host every Friday. My name is Cheese Doodle. I'm on the development team for the game that you are playing. We were talking about adding in chat macros as defaults, which allows you to send preset messages into the games that you're playing. They exist right now on your profile. If you go to your profile, you can add in macros, and we were testing to see what happens if you are spectating a game. Does the macro actually do anything? And so I went and I tested the one that I just made here, not thinking it was going to work, and it did. And that's why I popped into your game and randomly dropped that message and then disappeared. So that was that. Thanks for responding the way you did. It got a good laugh for us. And yeah, so we just finished up the specifications for this. I think we're in a pretty good place. So unless anybody has anything else here, I think we'll spend a couple minutes talking about Bambi's multi-select thing, and then I think we'll call it for today. I'm going to make another page here. I don't feel like making another document. So accessibility of, wow, I spelled that so wrong. Accessibility of chat macros. Let's just talk about options right now. So the Josh option is hold shift to display. Josh, is it to display all your macros or display only 4 macros? What macros are actually showing up when you, what does that mean? Macro? Or what is, a macro is like a, I don't know, does it stand for something? I'm not actually sure. But basically it's a preset message. So you type before the game happens a message that you want. And you say, this is the message I want it to be. And then you pick a key on your keyboard. And when you press that key in your game, instead of sending that letter, it will send that entire message. Macro types first. Okay, so tell me more about macro types. So you've got 4 different groups, each of them with 4 different macros. Is that what I'm... So for example, shift displays offense, defense, down, power-ups, just easy examples here. Pops, and then end game. And I'm not saying these are what they should be, just easy examples again. And then you pick up, down, left, or right. And then inside of up, it gives you 4 different options, which is, well, give me an example. Like, we are past 4 is up, kind of thing. Block, possible ban evader restricted. I love Cheese Doodles 67. Okay, that's interesting. Can you show the roadmap doc from earlier and zoom in before you go? Absolutely. Give me one moment for that. Compliments, reactions, apologies, post-game, pre-game. That's 5 things. Unity's got all the packs ready to go. Thanks, Green Minotaur, for the subscription. Appreciate that. Okay, I think we got the gist of what Josh is going for here. So let me just write down the other things. So Rocket League uses compliments, just to give examples, reactions, apologies, post-game, whoops, pop fees, that's helpful. Apologies, post-game, pre-game. Cool, that makes sense. So that's Josh's thing. Now with Bambi option, I think he wants something similar, right? He's talking about the same thing, but he wants to be customizable double keys. So is Bambi still here or did he leave? We might have to make it up for him. Um, so Bambi was saying that we want to have the ability to use 2 keys for each macro, which means you could do things like JJ is pups soon kind of thing, but then JK is need regrab kind of thing. So each individual message is 2 different letters, so that you have, instead of the number of keys on your keyboard, you have a larger number than that. Just go with that. He's making his Google slide presentation. Well, I'd be happy to go through that if he wants me to. Toppy says we want another cheese stream. Yes, of course. And let me zoom in on this roadmap for Sergeant Ducky real quick, just so I can say that I did. For those who don't know what this is something we put together for the last month or so. We were putting together features that have been built or submitted ahead of time by the community, some of them internally, for things that we want to do in the game. We separated those out into 3 different categories. Number 1 was release cornerstones, which are bigger features that would be kind of like the headliners for a release that we put out. So you can see some of these features are more in-depth. There's a little bit more work behind them, but they would have a bigger impact when they actually go live. A couple things that we're working on right now would be customizable maps for Egg Ball and Hockey. Those are currently in progress. And then the new player indicator is currently in progress as well, for marking players in games if they are new to the game, so that they don't get harassed for being a new player. Some other big things on the way. Friends feature is a big one. A community calendar, so you can see what events are on the way, and then some other things like time trials and other things that people have wanted for a long time now. So those are the release cornerstones, and it's a smaller category because they're a lot of work to get those things done. Then after that, we have QOL features, the quality of life, quality of living. He separated these into 3 different categories. We've got high, medium, and low priority things. So the high priority things are stuff that should probably happen somewhat soon because there is a visual glitch, or there is some information that's very important to have that is missing from the game, or there is some button or process or something that's not working the way that people would expect it to be working when they come to the site. So these are things that are somewhat decreasing the enjoyment of the game because it's not very straightforward or not very intuitive what those things actually do. So an example that's very obvious is like the mobile zoom. Right now, if you look at a replay on your phone, it looks awful because it's super zoomed out, or you can't even see the game at all. That is an example of a very high priority visual quality of life issue because you can't actually use it. High importance for information would be fortunate map IDs, not knowing what the maps on the maps page actually are, where they come from. It's hard to know if you have the correct version of a map right now. So that is also high priority. Oh, I forgot to mention actually at the start of the stream for a development thing, while I was updating the view thing that I mentioned, where if you press F12, you can see you're running in development mode. This is going to be fixed in the next release. But while I was fixing that, I fixed this bug where it says we're seeing odd errors in the maps page. And it's been driving me insane for 2 years now, I think, because we couldn't figure out what the source was. And I found it and I fixed it. So this red message will no longer pop up when you go to the maps tab. I'm very excited for that. So forgot to mention that before. Anyway, so that's the high priority. We got some medium priority and low priority. Same idea, just things that are less critical to get done on like a short notice kind of thing. And then the last section is the could do it, but when and why. This is the suggestions that we get that are fun. There's nothing wrong with them necessarily, but they're not like things that we really need to have to get the game working. So for example, adding in a super boost tile, where instead of a team tile needing to be next to a boost, you combine those into a single tile, so it's always a super boost. That would be cool. We could do it, but when are we going to do it? Why would we do that? So it's not really a critical thing that needs to be done anytime soon, but if a developer finds that it's interesting to them, they can take that on and they can work on that going forward. So those are the 3 big categories that we've been working on. Ducky, did you want me to zoom on anything in particular from there, or did that cover kind of what you were looking for? So you can grab your screenshots. If you want access to this later, also just feel free to DM me. I'm happy to send you anything that's in this. This is all public information. You'll see some icons next to a few of these. This was something we worked on, I think, last week, where we were looking at putting together releases. So if you go to the Reddit, you can obviously see releases that we worked on. If you go to the feedback tab, you can see a link to all of the release notes that we've put together. The most recent releases here, but you can see all past release notes if you click that link there, and all the stuff the Future Group has been working on for the past 5 years. So what we're looking at here is putting together one of those releases. So for this one, the check mark would be a thing that we put into that release. This would be a similar features that could go together that would kind of complement one another when we go live with that release. So all the check marks were things that we thought could go together. And similarly, the star, the exclamation marks, all things that would be good to group together into their own releases. So a couple of messages I missed here. It's oddball. How does that feel? Oh, you're talking to, okay. Yep. Join Eggball. What about an option to make your private group games spectatable on the homepage like competitive games? I don't see why that wouldn't work. I think with the addition of the spectate feature, that's a much more accessible thing. So you're saying that if you're in a private group and you're playing private games, you want the ability to have your game show up here on the live spectate page so that if people want to watch it, they can. There's nothing stopping us from doing that. That'd be very doable. What I want you to do, though, for me, Toppy, is I want you to go to the feedback tab, and I want you to actually type that up here so that next week on stream, when I come and go through the candy board, we can mark it as planned, we can have an internal ticket for it, and we can keep track of that request over time, because there are a lot of things people want us to do. Obviously, 191 feature requests open right now. We have 227 tickets on the back end, so I can't promise when that will be done, but it is something that I think we could do at some point. So, got 17 people here. I feel kind of bad ending the stream with that. So, any other questions from a development standpoint while I've got you all here? We've kind of covered everything we were planning on doing for today. The Josh option and the Bambi option. I can't think of any other obvious options. Check bot spam before I end the stream. Okay. I don't have a good way of showing that on stream. Let's see. Can I just paste it into this document? For those of you who don't follow our Discord, please join the Discord. We have a Wordle thing going. Oh gosh, it's inverted. Oh, it's horrible. Oh god. Why? Why is it like that? Stop. Please. No. I don't know how to fix that. Can I paste it here? There we go. Okay, that's what Moosin made for us. So if you're not on the Discord, go ahead and join that. If you're looking for a link, you can find it on the homepage. If you scroll down to the bottom of the homepage, there's a link to, not on this page, bottom of the homepage is a link to our Discord. You can join us in right there, and you can ask questions for the developers anytime you want. You can chat with other people in the community, and you can send bad memes like this one, or more accurately this one, and be good to go. So we are past the 90-minute mark, which is usually where I try to end these streams. So unless there are any other questions, oh, I forgot to check the form that people submit questions to. Let me check that real quick, and then we'll wrap up for real. Here's your Group Friday questions. For those who don't have access to this form, I'm going to paste a link in the chat real quick. If you'd like me to answer any anonymous questions on stream, feel free to fill out that form. If you're watching the YouTube video back later, that same form will be in the description. So any questions that I get there, I will answer on stream each week. It looks like we did not receive any questions as of last stream. So I think I'm going to call it there. But as always, if you have any questions about anything TagPro related, feel free to reach out to me or wait until next Friday. I stream every Friday at 1 p.m. And I think that's all I got. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Appreciate all the activity we had this week. And I will see you all next week. Have a lovely weekend. Enjoy your Friday. Goodbye.